My journey is very different than I think a great many of yous are. I left home when I was 11 years old. I was born to a single mother. I never knew my dad, and I grew up on welfare and wondering how all these people got all these nice things and I never had anything. So when I was 11, I left my home and I started being a criminal because I learned that crime will take you from places you don't want to be when you're a youth. And that's a weird statement, but when I was a kid, my mom thought a great way to discipline me was to lock me in the closet. So I don't know how many guys have been locked in a closet, but it really messes you up as a child, and it really messes with your emotional stability and your trust in other people. So when I was 11, I threw rocks at a train. Pretty cool, actually. Turns out it's a felony in the state of California. So I was promptly arrested and sent to juvenile hall. And it was the first time that I was amongst my peers and conversing about my life, and they were telling me, dude, that's some really bad stuff. So I figured out, and I had this epiphany when I was 11 years old that I would use crime to protect myself. And crime became the vehicle to get out of my home. They took me out of my home. I became a ward of the state, and crime became my profession. I thought, wow, this is actually really good. I'm learning to protect myself by doing crimes, and I'm progressing along my journey. So that journey took me to group homes and foster homes. Eventually, I ended up in a boys' ranch called the Shamrock Boys Ranch. And Bob Shamrock was the first ever father to me. And he was the first guy to step up and go, hey, man, you got to not do that stuff. That's kind of stupid. And he was the first man to set some rules and some boundaries, and then to have those be enforced. And then to support me and love me unconditionally through that journey. And I would just fell in love with Bob Shamrock. And Bob became my mentor and my first father. This is when I was 13. Bob taught me about athletics, perseverance, how to achieve your goals, and focus. He did it all from this very calm, very loving persona as a father. So I just fell in love with him. I did anything he said except for follow the rules, except for not break the law, except for doing all the stuff that I kept doing and had been doing since I was a kid. So by the time I was 17, I was in prison for 3.5 years. And I sat there by myself, figuring out and learning that I'd made tremendous mistakes in my life. And that there were people there guiding me and trying to help me. But my fears, frustrations, and angers were so great that I just buried that and I did whatever I wanted to do. And that was great until I was 17. My son had just been born, and I realized I was stuck in prison. I was not there to raise my son, and I was exactly as my father had been to me. And that was the moment where I changed my mind. And I realized I'm a screw-up. I'm an idiot, and I've completely screwed up my life. And I pulled out a notebook, and I wrote down the things I was going to become. And many of those things were my childhood dreams. Many of those things were I picked up along the journey. A few of those things were things I just hoped to be, but I wrote those down. And one of them was to be a father. Number one, because I didn't have that. So that was top of my list. And second was make money and be a professional. Way down at the bottom of that list was to become a champion and a professional athlete. Because what most people don't know is when I spent that time in that closet, what I envisioned was standing on a stage, speaking to people, and becoming a champion, having value and worth that I never felt as a kid. So I believed that if I went on this journey, at least in my head somewhere, I would find fulfillment. I never progressed on it. I never tried anything. I never took a martial arts class. I never did anything. Except for when I was in prison, I wrote it down and I went, now my life is going to change. I trained in weights every single day. I took myself to college. I took business courses, philosophy, education. I got myself as educated as I could. I also lifted weights every single day. When I got out, I was 205 pounds of awesomeness and amazing long hair. Nothing to do in prison but grow your hair long. When I got out, there was somebody waiting for me, Bob Shamrock. Bob had never turned his back on me. Bob had let me go on my journey. But he did come visit me just before I got out, and he said, listen, yes, you have screwed your life up, but there's a way out, and it's all the stuff that I've taught you. And if you apply yourself, if you commit yourself, I guarantee you'll be successful. And I was like, this is amazing. Okay, well, give it to me, Bob. Give it to me. And he said, I've got 2 careers you would be amazing at. Give them to me. You'd be a great stripper or a great fighter. And I was like, well, I do have this secret dream of being a fighter, so I'll go down that path. I wasn't ready to be a stripper, not that I'm knocking any and all strippers, but something I'm not ready for. So I went down the path of fighting. And it was a conscious decision. I changed my mind. My mind was full of fear and pain and angst and all these other things. I never had family. I never had support. I never had anybody until Bob Shamrock came along. But his words to me empowered me. And I knew if I could survive going to prison, and if I could survive all the stuff that I survived, I could probably survive cage fighting. And so I said yes. And here's how that went down. I got out of prison. 48 hours later, my dad dropped me off at the dojo. And he said, never give up and don't show them you're scared. And he drove away. And that was it. And I walked into that school, and I never left for 16 years. And all my dreams came true. I won every championship. I conquered everything. I became the first talent spokesman. I became the first middleweight champion. I became the first league owner. I became the first sports broadcaster. I took control of my life, and I went down the direction that I believed I was going to be. I was scared. I was afraid. I didn't have any resources to be successful. I just believed that Bob loved me and that he was pure in his belief. So I followed him and I trusted him. That led me to my first championship, which led me to my mentor and father figure, Henry Holmes, who I told him my dreams, which were impossible. I wanted to win every title, be the biggest star ever, and then walk away a gazillionaire and spend time with my daughter. And he's like, dude, put it in the contract. I'll help you figure that out. So I found an ally that could guide me through this crazy journey of things that hadn't even existed yet. The sport of mixed martial arts hadn't even existed yet. I was creating it on notebooks every day in the gym, training and fighting. I was in the gym every day sacrificing my life and creating the sport by my own hands because I believed. And then when I went in the ring and I fought, I was winning. And when I went and trained and I read my notes, I got it. And I could tell the people that didn't get it, and the people that were lying to me, and the people that were trying to dissuade me or distract me. I could see what the truth was because I committed 1,000% and I wrote it all down. And if you look at my notebook, it says, I'm going to be a world champion. I'm going to be a movie star. I'm going to write books. I'm going to be a public speaker. All of that is in there. And what you don't know or see is when I was the age of my daughter over here, so wave your hand, Nicolette, when I was her age, I couldn't speak. I was afraid to open my mouth. I had so much emotion and fear and angst and concerns because of what had happened to me. I couldn't function in society. So I'd go out for sports. I was a great athlete. I'd get kicked out after the third day. So I'd have some freak out. Someone would push me, shove me, confront me. Now take that image and put it in a cage as a professional fighter. Because that's what I was. I was that scared kid still, fighting in a cage against grown men and traveling the world. And I don't know how many of you come from a home of abuse or from trauma, but to add more trauma to your trauma makes it a really tough journey. So I went in every single fight believing I would die. That's just how I roll. I went into every single fight and confrontation prepared to give my life. Think about the commitment. What if you showed up to work tomorrow and said, boss, I will die for you today? Imagine how fired up he'd be. He'd be like, man, that was my commitment. That's what I brought. That's why you couldn't beat me, is because you couldn't kill me. Sounds crazy, but when you're a fighter, and we're all fighters, when you're a warrior, and we're all warriors, when you go to battle, are you going to tiptoe around? Are you going to ease yourself in there? No. You're going to crush them and you're going to kill them, because that's what war is about. That's what being a warrior is about. And if you want dreams, visions, if there are things that you want in your life, I had no basis to achieve anything, except for one man was like, listen, you're a good kid, follow these rules. I had no basis to be successful in any way whatsoever. Any kid that I grew up with, they all went to jail, prison, or they're dead. All of them. So it's here. What I figured out after my journey is we need each other. I found martial arts, and martial arts was the community. It wasn't me that figured out all those things. It was me and 50 other men that were training together on this mission and trying to figure it out. And we became a family. And that family moved this sport to the highest level. And that family is the same here. You guys are on the same exact journey. You guys are fighting a fight and trying to achieve something. We were trying to achieve the impossible. Our sport was actually illegal. And was one of the most damaged sports in the business when I was the champion. So there was a lot of work to be done in bringing this sport to what we see on television now. And it wasn't a fun journey. And most of the people I presented to told me this cage fighting will never go anywhere, you're a bunch of barbarians, and I can't believe that you're doing this. Once I decided what I wanted to achieve, I found the people that would bring me to success. And that took a lot of humility and a lot of confidence in who I was and what I needed to achieve. A lot of that journey was putting myself in the position of a student, of showing up, of asking questions. When I was training, I was the only athlete to have a notebook in all the training sessions. I was the first athlete, and I was constantly teased. They would literally laugh at me when I walked into the gym because I had a notebook. That wasn't cool. You're not tough if you bring a notebook to the fighting session, apparently. I didn't know any better. I learned by writing it down, by applying it, and by doing it. So to me, I could care less what they thought. I knew what I needed to achieve. And that was my dream. I achieved it all. I literally started a company, sold it for $40 million, told everyone to go visit themselves, and then I stayed home for 8 years with my daughter and just lived the greatest life ever. It was amazing because all the stuff that I asked Henry for and all my friends and everybody, it all came true. And I was literally sitting on a pile of money, loving my life, and I woke up and realized nothing had changed from when I was a little kid. I still felt the exact same way. I still felt traumatized and sad. I still felt sick inside. I went through alcoholism, addiction, mental illness. Everything affected me because money and fame just makes it bigger. It doesn't change anything. If you're unhappy and then you're rich, you're just rich and unhappy, and it's bigger. It's more of it. So I had to take a step back and realize, hey, fighting and conquering the world was not the key to success. That was the key to me getting out of the ghetto. That was the key to me getting out of prison. But I had not become a complete human being yet. And that was the hardest part of my journey. I had to look inside myself again and realize what you see and what I do and what you see on TV has nothing to do with who I am. We're all the same person. I'm just doing that because I'm crazy and I got this vision and this dream. But we all hurt inside. We're all scared inside. We all have fears. Most of us don't embrace those fears. Most of us run from them. Most of us compartmentalize them. Most of us change our life so we don't have to deal with the fear instead of dealing with the fear. I woke up one day and realized I have a beautiful family. I've got everything I ever wanted, and I am so unhappy and sick inside. And I realized what Bob had given to me and what he taught me I wasn't doing. I used all of my resources to gain wealth and fame and create friends and be cool. I wasn't doing it the way he did it for me. I wasn't giving it away. I wasn't helping everybody I could. I didn't know Bob Shamrock. I just showed up one day and he's like, these are the rules, here's what you do. And I was like, okay. But he took a time to be a mentor to me, to be a father to me. He took time to share with me this valuable information. And I was able to take what he taught me, what I learned in martial arts, and what I've learned through being a champion and being a champion in business, and I've created a system to run your whole life. It's how I run every single day of my life. And I want to give you pieces of it so that you can leave here with some really valuable information. The biggest thing for me, the biggest one for me, is I function and do everything on the system of plus, equal, minus. And I'll explain the system to you. It's literally the symbols, plus, equal, minus. It doesn't matter what you want to accomplish in your life, you can do it if you find a plus, an equal, and a minus. And what that means is I wanted to create a sports league, be on television, sell a movie, be a free agent, do all this stuff. There was only one man who had ever negotiated all of that, and that was Henry Holmes. So I went in search of him. I became his student. He became my mentor. I became his friend. He became my father. Through that journey, we learned, and I learned what was possible, but only because he had done it. And when I teach people this method, I say, you want to be a great skateboarder? Call up Tony Hawk. Be like, bro, man, have I got a dream. Show up, ready, 1,000, and see what the rewards are. There's a story in Japan, in Japanese business, it's inappropriate to approach somebody and have a conversation with them unless you've been properly introduced. It's considered bad manners. So we would never connect unless there was an actual reason to connect. There's an old Japanese proverb about business. About a gentleman who wants to do business with a very successful businessman, but he's not at that level. So what he does is each and every day, he stands outside of this gentleman's house with an umbrella. Each and every day. For months and months he stands there. Till one day, it starts raining. And as the boss comes out to get in his car, the gentleman steps forward with the umbrella and says, Suma-san, would you like an umbrella? There was a reason to have the conversation now. There was a reason to be engaged now. That man became that man's boss. They were uber successful together. But that man stood there for months with just an umbrella and the belief that someday the need will come, I will fill it, and the relationship will move forward. I encourage all of you guys, if you have a dream, find your plus. Find who that person is. One of my pluses was Chuck Norris. I was like, dude, if I could be like Chuck Norris, I am so good. He's such a good martial artist. He stands for all the things I believe to be true. My first television show I ever did was on Walker, Texas Ranger. I fought Chuck Norris on CBS, my very first television show. I put that out in the universe, that I want to meet this man and be his student. I want to show up and clean his shoes if need be. I want to lower myself so that he will give confidence to me. That's the plus equal minus system. Try it with anything. I've been married for 17 years now, been with my wife 17 years. That's nothing. My neighbor Les has been married for 40 years. Anytime I got beef, I text him up, call Les, dude, what do I do? He's like, yo, 45 years, man. Let me set you straight. You need a mentor. Trust me. If you want something, you can gut it out, try your hardest. Eventually, you will get there. With a mentor, you'll get there like this. Your minus is the most important person in this equation. I was the minus to Bob Shamrock. Your minus is the person that needs the information. If I become an amazing skater and I don't pass this on, I'm not an amazing skater. I'm just a talented dude. That's how it works. This creates a system. When you use this, it creates a system of support for you, where if you have nothing or you have plenty, you will get more. You will have so many resources if you work the system. A lot of people get confused on what that equal is. What's my equal? Who's my equal? Well, right now, you guys are all equal to each other. You guys are all sitting in the same seat. And anybody in business that's the same as me, I'm going to go and compete against them. I'm going to look at every speaker who's in a speaking circuit. I'm going to figure out how to crush them or how to become friends with them so I can figure out what they know. So in this system, I'm always growing. I'm always learning. I'm always figuring it out. I'm always here developing myself and making sure I'm competitive or being the best that I can be. And I'm down here giving it away, making it multiply. And that's where you get the good chi. That's where the human connection gets really, really big. I've been super blessed now because of all my opportunities. I get to spend 50% of my time on charity. That means half of my day, I'm literally just helping people. And from the person I was and the things I did as a criminal, nothing feels better. Nothing feels more fulfilling to me because I was a bad person. I did bad things. Now I do good things. If you don't feel good inside, try doing some good things. See how that affects you. Just try it. Be randomly nice. Do a common act of kindness, like do something very nice and see what the results are. I want to switch some things up for you. Here's what I truly, truly believe. People say your body is a temple. I don't know about you guys. I do some crazy things with my body, and it is not very church-like. Think about that. Here's what I want to say. Your mind is a temple. Whatever you put in your mind, whatever you believe, whatever you consume, whatever you watch, whatever you listen to is who you are. Period. Period. Your brain's made of plastic. Whatever you write on it, it will write like a hard drive. So if you consume crap all day, guess how you're going to feel? Guess what you're going to think? Guess what you're going to want to hang out with? That's how it rolls. And I'll tell you a story about that. I told you about my abuse. It was really hard for me to hurt people in my career. I would physically have trouble beating people up. and would let them beat me up and get tired so that I could then find a way to beat them, which is complete insanity, right? It's just, I'm a professional fighter, but I don't want to hurt people. That's insanity. That's because I was damaged. I retrained my brain, and I retrained my brain in the most grotesque way. I began reading violent serial killer books and changing the amount of violence and perception in my brain. And after about 3 or 4 months of all this horrible stuff, I had no problem stomping people's heads and beating them down and choking them unconscious. And it changed my perspective. And I was like, well, okay, I have a different understanding of violence now because I've bathed my mind in violence. Sounds crazy, but if you woke up each and every day and you bathed your mind in positive energy, in direction, if you worked this plus minus equal system and you bathed yourself in this powerful community, imagine how you would feel and the confidence you'd have in tackling things. That's what this system is for. I was a scared young kid fighting in a cage, and it terrified me. I became the greatest fighter on the planet and pioneered the sport to network television, only because I changed my mind. I went, wait a minute, I don't need to be scared. I don't need to be afraid because I have these tools. And the reason I'm taking the stage now, Bob Shamrock passed away on this day in 2010. And he did this for thousands of kids. He had 2,000 kids come through his group home. And he treated each and every one like a son and gave us the same love, the same support, and the same rules and guidelines. And I was so blessed when I was 18 years old and I had my first, 21 years old, and I had my first professional fight when Bob Shamrock adopted me and I became a Shamrock. Not only did I have a name and an identity, but I had his beliefs behind me. And when I went into fight and I put my life on the line, having that behind me and having the strength to know what that was always pushed me through. I could face death because of that. I want everyone here to face death tomorrow. And by that, I mean, if you're living in fear, you ain't living. You're just existing around each other. Be vulnerable. Share. Nobody and nothing can really hurt you unless you let them. You all have the decision, and you could all make the decision to be anything you want. And I want you guys to be amazing, because the better you are, the better we all are. Because I have all of this time, I get to help people. So I want to help you guys here. I make myself available on social media at any time to help anybody who needs it. And you can reach me anywhere on social media, or you can email me at askfrank@frankshamrock.com. It goes right to my phone. If you got a question, do it privately, I don't care. I will respond to you, and I'll give you what I can. I'll give you advice, I'll give you information, or I'll connect you with somebody that I think can help you. You are not alone in this journey. Besides the people in this room, I got your back. Know that you are unstoppable. Nothing can stop you guys unless you decide. Before I go, I just want to say that if you have the chance to help somebody, and by that I mean, if you'd have run into me, anybody in this room, if you would have seen me at my age, you would have known that I needed some help, that I needed a friend, that I needed a pat on the back, that I needed a hug, that I needed something positive to do. So when you see that and you feel that, don't turn away. Don't stop looking. Go ahead and extend your heart, because what you'll get back is so much bigger than what you're giving out there. And that is the Shamrock way. And that's what I came to tell you. Thank you very much.